crazy thing in Taco going live. We'll be live in a minute. Just waiting on Soulblazerz. He just got home after like a 10 or 11 hour drive. That's starting a little later today because it's just going to be the three of us. No, Dan has a personal thing going on, so he's unable to make it. Yeah, this might end up being a long show. Hello, Mort. Hello, Greg, Trav, Lethal Terminus, Ryarios. Yeah, that like button's a good thing. You can like. It makes us very happy. Thank you. Hey, Gary. Yeah, that game's something. The less you know going in, I think the better it is. Which is why that IGN review really shocked me. Like, holy shit, that was pretty spoilery. Aarsal's here. Abe went to take a pee because he's a very old man, so we'll be live for you guys in a second. Hello, Painful Discourse. Oh, this is going to be a show. The tiniest chance that John Sick Mechanico might be on, but it's like 12:30 his time, so if he does, I can't imagine it'll be very long. He said he would try.
we on? And no, yes. And here we go. Welcome to You Had Me at Halo's 57th episode as we delve into one of gaming's most storied and sometimes troubled franchises. Today, we're going to focus the show on the Halo roadmap. Obviously, we got to get into some of our feelings, what the community can expect. We're going to get into some of the deep dive details on what's coming up in November and in Season 3. Also, I think we're going to need to just talk about, in general, the state of 343 and its current and also evolving management. But before we do that, let's go ahead and meet today's Spartan cast. First up, we have Spartan Jesse, a.k.a. Mr. Don Cabeza. How's it going?
You are muted.
You are muted. That's why I didn't hear you. See, it wasn't me. It was you.
I did not touch my mic, and it muted itself.
Interesting.
I
am living dangerously. I am using the new OBS version 28.
Ooh,
always crazy to update to something and not have tested it before going live. But
there's echo
sometimes.
That seems to correlate really well with our topic. I'm just kidding. Keep going.
They could hear me. You couldn't because I had the Logitech in. My echo's gone. Don't worry, folks.
Awesome.
I put the Logitech in so I could talk to you in the going live thing, and I forgot to get rid of it in this. So now you don't have to worry about that anymore.
Cool.
But yeah, new OBS for some reason now makes my mic mute. That's cool.
Yeah,
that's not going to be annoying. I'm doing really well otherwise, unlike, as Abe was going to say, the social media people at 343.
Yeah. It's a tough day to be there. If you're having a bad day, folks, just, be thankful you didn't have to.
You don't work at 343.
You're not answering people. You're not answering the Halo community on Twitter today. Man. So your day could be worse. All right. Well, next up we got Spartan Aarsal, aka Mr. Soulblazerz. How's it going, Soul?
It's going okay. I just got home like 5 minutes ago from a 12-hour drive. So if I am a little groggy or tired, that is why.
Okay. Well, sure we should. Hopefully we'll get you to wake up as we go through this.
I have a hat on because my hair is insane. I just even more insane than usual. So I figured, let's go Abe mode. Hey, and he's not wearing a hat this episode.
Yeah, I thought I balanced you out a little bit. I got pretty for the cameras today. Show off my new haircut. Oh man, yeah. And we may have Mr. Spartan Austin, aka Mr. AustinFordGames, try to join us in the middle of the show. It'd probably just be on audio if you can. Just and Mr. Daniel is had some personal stuff today as well. So. But you know what? Between all of us here, here's your host, Spartan Abe, aka OneBadMutha. Between the three of us and the fact that I can be long-winded, I think we probably won't have a short show.
Watch this be the short show.
Not that. What happened today? Is there a lot to talk about, or?
It looks like there's plenty to talk about today. Waking up this morning, it was just like all the crap hit the fan. I kind of was expecting the Halo stuff. We've been hearing stuff about that for a little while.
Early, right? I was expecting it to come at 3:43 p.m. like usual, and then not.
That would have sucked.
Yes.
Thankfully, we actually had time to react for once instead of having to react on the fly big time.
Yes. Yeah, had a chance to take in all the details. I mean, there is a lot of details too. If you read this on a surface level, obviously, there's some big things that I think that have jumped out to everybody. But there's, as you kind of drill into it further, there is some other things that I think, if you are a Halo fan, Halo player, that will, be important to you. I mean, I'm assuming. So we're going to get into a lot of that stuff, but I guess I'll just start off. We'll start off like really high level before we just get into the specifics. How are you guys feeling? So I guess I'll start with you. Like, what's kind of was your general thoughts when you kind of saw that news?
So before, like you said, before the news came out, we already kind of knew we were getting something. We knew a little bit, rumors of, the delays and whatnot. What I heard made me expect something a fair bit worse than what we got, is how I'm putting it. Like, it's not good, obviously, but when I listened to the entire 30-minute video and I didn't speed it up, which was kind of an achievement for me, I'm just saying, I listened to the whole thing, and afterwards I was like, you know what? Yeah, it sucks, but this isn't as bad as I thought it would be. Not nearly as bad as I thought it would be.
Okay, Jesse, how about you, man?
Not good. It's not good. It's only negative, but it's not as negative as I was fearing. So that's about as positive as I can be. Like, it sucks. It was pretty obvious they weren't going to hit the August target. And once they didn't hit the August target, it kind of felt like they probably won't hit the September target. At that point, you just sort of leave everything for the November target, but then the November target even itself has changed. We're not going 10 months without something new. We're getting a mini season, which in itself between co-op and Forge is kind of more than we've gotten in season 1 or 2 so far. I think the big thing is no battle pass. Moving to the experience-based battle pass, the 30-tier free one is cool.
Yeah.
So just like on the whole, it's not good, but it's not all bad. And I think we'll get into more later why this stuff they talked about actually sounds really promising again if they can stick it off for once. Yeah. They haven't yet.
Yeah, a lot of this, some of the stuff leaked out beforehand, and I think depending on how you got the leaks, I think that affected certain things as well, because some people were expecting the season reboot to start in November, or the Halo Infinite reboot to start in November with a lot of stuff, and then you get this update and you're like, okay, so it looks like we're in beta mode until March in some respects, and then on the flip side, I'd been hearing for a while that it was going to be a long time, or it was going to be a while. Like, it was going to be a year before they really kind of got their footing underneath them and really got to where I think people's expectations are of what this live service is going to be. I already knew that the couch co-op was going to be canceled. I already knew Forge and co-op were going to be delayed. So I kind of came in expecting that. And I think, like you, because I knew all the negative stuff ahead of time, maybe just getting that some of the other things that I wasn't expecting, maybe softened the blow a little bit for me. But I think but I'm also self-aware enough to know that, if I was in the shoes of everybody else, like if I were just sitting there watching YouTube videos and everybody's going, oh, we're waiting and this is going to be the time they're going to get on track, and or hopefully they're going to get on track, this probably would have been a really, upsetting day as a Halo fan. Had I had chance to already digest it and throw it up and everything else, previously. So, so we're going to definitely get into it. I think there's a lot of details to cover. Yep. We're seeing a lot of the reactions, a lot of the comments and reactions are that seem to indicate that there is some things, maybe details that are missed in with the update. Obviously we already know that this is not, we said earlier in the year that, hey, live service goes through struggles. This is beyond, I think, what anybody's expectations were if you came in as a Halo, what your expectations of.
This is Rainbow Six Siege levels of struggle.
Yeah, the levels of struggle they're having right now, I think, exceed if the average Halo fan was being honest, it probably exceeds whatever we thought that could have been, right? Whatever bar we would have said, okay, we know you're going to be a little bit slow out the gate. This has exceeded, for me it has, right? And we'll get into some of the things they talked about. I was happy with some of the things that they were able to openly discuss, because in the past 343 it's kind of swept certain things under the rug, and I thought that this that what they did today, kind of being very forthcoming with some of the issues fundamentally, with performance and everything else, was refreshing. So we're going to get into that stuff here in a bit. So any final things on just high level thoughts before we kind of dive into we'll kind of dive into some of the stuff that we saw today.
I didn't realize they gave an end date for season 3. Did they talk about that in the video?
Mm-hmm. They wanted. Yeah, they did. Yeah, they want it
June 27th.
Yeah,
14 weeks. I did not know that when they talked about it in the video.
That was their talk of seasonality and actually hitting a steady cadence, which is, they talked about 13, 14 or so weeks. So not an exact 3 months, but not far off.
Yeah,
certainly a lot better than 6.
Oh, for sure. I just didn't expect them to give a hard date because the way they talked about it was kind of like we're not sure yet exactly, but it looks like no, season 3 is that one. We'll see, obviously.
Yeah,
but.
a lot of the stuff they weren't super sure about definitely
Right.
felt more like the experience-based battle pass, the quality of life things. It definitely felt like by pushing out season 3, by not naming the winter update a season, is how that just becomes more nebulous timing wise.
Yeah.
And then
Yeah.
giving themselves a hard date on season 3. It begins here, it ends here. And for their hard dates and not targets, they've generally hit them.
With the exception being
it's
this
just-
delay, right?
Yeah. Yeah. So now season 3 that had a hard date is the delay. It's a big one, but at least there's still something. It's not great, but it's not nothing, which I think some people have intimated it is. Like I even saw people talking on our forum saying, oh, now we don't even know if co-op is going to hit this year. And I'm like, well, no, they said on November 8th, we Forge beta and co-op and mission replay. Like that's now the winter update. And then during that, there's other things coming. But, you know,
I will
it's
agree
not
with
great.
that. Generally, I know a lot of people say they miss their targets, and they do. But I think season 3 date is the only time they've given a hard date on something, and it didn't make it.
I agree with that, you know. So I do think though, the one thing I'll say is because I have heard some of the pushback has been like, well, you know, this is still more than maybe what they had previous last time for 6 months, but I don't think that's necessarily a good selling point, right? Because I think a lot of that people were very upset and they're like, okay, I'm going to give you a little bit more.
At this point, it
you know.
has to be less selling point and more just, hey, maybe it's not as bad as we think it is. Kind of is the mentality I'm looking at it. Where it definitely sucks. It's not a good thing. None of us are happy that season 3 is getting delayed to March. That sucks. You know, like when I first heard the rumors, I was like, March? No way. Like I did not think it was. I'm like, that makes no sense. It's 4 whole months later. Like what?
Yeah. Yep. So let's set the table on this because you know they start off today's video with a new leader.
Yes.
and that stands out. And I guess like one thing I want, like just for some perspective, this is the thing that kind of stood out to me. You guys, we all remember, like everybody here who's in our chat that's been on Xbox, you know, since let's just say last generation. You know, we all remember, you know, 2017. You know, Phil Spencer gets promoted, right? Remember, like he got stuck. They announced that, and all of a sudden Microsoft was saying, "Hey, we're going to be doing gaming, big time." And then it was, you know, you didn't hear anything. Then the next year they started buying studios, right? And then 2019 comes around, and like Crackdown releases, and everybody goes like, "What the hell, Xbox?"
Yeah.
And they, you know, they started jumping ship, right? and the thing that the reason I bring
couldn't
that
handle something so fun.
it was not a great game, but anyways, I don't care what Nick says. It would have been fine for a AA studio, but anyways, like the thing that I would say, you know, when you look at just their overall, like let's just take that, forget about Crackdown, but that overall year, even launching 2020 without, you know, a big AAA at launch and things like that. The reason I set the table with that is because as we kind of delve into this, the thing that I try to keep the perspective of is that when there are changes from a standpoint of management, strategy, and then even behaviors, there's going to be a lag with the results. So if you see the results are on the horizon that are not what you wanted or expected, you know, like you start making those changes, a lot of times those results are hitting the consumer, hitting us who don't really care how the sausage is made at a time when those changes have already been taking place. So I think we want to kind of keep that perspective as we sort of delve into some of the details of what is going on, because one of the things I keep seeing over and over and over on Twitter is, hey, there needs to be management changes. And the first thing we started off with, here, you know, we have to look back and see that Staten took the job basically as head of the game. You know, he's the guy that he's said it a few times already, like the game, all the decisions from here on out, good and bad. And I think he's made some mistakes, you know, obviously in this position, learning the live service, he's admitted to that part of it, but all that stuff stops with him. all the people that are coming, there's been a lot of turnover.
Yeah.
The people that are coming through are now his people. So his guys and girls. So, that's something we got to think about is that, he took over right before the game was supposed to launch. And since that time, they have been, there's been a lot of turnover. I mean, to be honest, and this is not to like throw anybody under the bus because some of the issues go beyond any particular people, but there's some high level things like with contractors, the game engine, there's been a lot of challenges for these people. But yeah. I say all that because the first thing we see today is, one of Staten's new people, the lead. And he basically, so Sean Barron was one of the first people to speak. He was formerly in their data and analytics, so he kind of understands, like, he can kind of see what's going on with everything. And basically, he's responsible for everything that's not the maps, modes, and sandbox, which, if we're being honest, that is everything but everything but those is what our problems with the game are right now.
That's interesting that they worded it like that, huh?
Yeah, he's basically now he's the new guy, and he's responsible for all the complaints you have about Halo, or most of them, are falling under his kind of jurisdiction.
So would you say that was a leadership change that they started the video off with?
Yeah, I mean, it's and Staten was already the start of that, and that's one of them.
Yeah.
There's been others, like, and I think we've talked about them on previous shows.
Yeah, we have.
So it's pretty obvious. Like at this point, this is what it looks like with the leadership changes everyone's been talking about. You're seeing essentially a leadership reboot for a developer while still trying to support a live game. And what does that mean? Well, it means you get roughly a year and a half where things just are not good enough. Oh, God damn, I'm echoing
There's
again.
a bit of an echo.
Hold on.
Sorry.
Yeah, my talking to you in the pre-show thing, I keep forgetting about, so I got to mute it on each scene.
It's good now.
It's gone now.
Okay.
Yeah, it's pretty much just I mean, it is great to hear me twice because I'm so stupid. But it's pretty much like the leadership changes people keep talking about are what they're doing, and that's why everything's behind. It's Staten's coming in, he's making it his team, and while that's happening, they're falling really far behind on their promises. And I think now they've once again, I'd say the main issue they've had is really underestimating how long everything's going to take. And so they keep putting it, like, if the expectation was just, this is going to take a very long time, and we're going to try and do what we can. Look, right from the start, I think people would have been rightfully very disappointed, quite angry. But if you knew well enough and you could say, yeah, we're going to, it might take a year, and a half, but we'll get there. And they could have said that at the beginning, it would have helped, but they couldn't because they just didn't know.
It's interesting that this video, though, like 5 minutes in, they say end of 2023. I had to pause it. I'm like, wait, did they say end of 2023? And go back and listen to it. I'm like, okay, all right, we're talking long term here.
Yeah, and that's, well, so I don't like to comment like on rumors from like, but we've heard, you kind of start piecing it together. There's been some commonalities. Number one's been like the contractor situation, and that's kind of led to like a lot of tech debt. Like anybody that's worked in technology knows, when you have contractors kind of do something that's like their own thing, and then you leave it for the next person to go figure out, and then they got the spaghetti code in there, and the shoestrings are holding it together, and they put it out there, and then the next guy takes it over. It's like it gets, that tech debt stuff builds up, and they're not, they haven't been efficient with it. And I do even remember a previous interview with Bonnie Ross talking about that was going to be one of their priorities. And to me, like the way I connect the dots is they just haven't totally solved that, solved some of the tech debt, or they're working through it still currently, and I did see like even a quote from Jez, who I feel like usually has pretty good connections. Like he said, I think if 343 could come out and, be honest with people about what's going on and what they've done and what how they're planning to kind of get on track, they probably would, get a better reception. But I do think there's a challenge with that, right? Because you don't want to start making it sound like you're blaming the guys that were there.
You throw people under the bus, you break connections, you burn bridges. It's not professional.
You don't want to.
People
you can't
don't
do that.
understand how game dev
You get
works.
sued.
So if you start talking too much, it starts sounding like giving actual reasoning can sound like excuse making when the person you're talking to doesn't know what you're talking about.
Like, heck, they didn't even confirm the whole report we had from Windows Central about the Russian support CEO. They didn't talk about that or comment about that at all. You know, it could have helped them, sure, saying, hey, yeah, it turns out the invasion also slowed us down a bit. Like, that'd give them a little bit of goodwill per se, but they didn't, right? Because some things you kind of just keep to yourself when it comes to this stuff.
So overall, what did you guys think? Let's talk about the first. This is the first one that's gone on camera. There's other ones. There's other leads that have started at
of Sean Barron.
Yeah, Sean Barron. So what was your guys' first takeaway with him in terms of what he talked about, or is there anything that really stood out to you?
Pretty much, he said all the right things. It definitely wasn't a Jim Ryan situation where every time the guy talks, you're just like, Jesus Christ, man.
Don Matrick,
yeah.
Saw a light or whatever. Yeah.
It felt a little prepared, which I think is always good, especially if it's your first time in front of camera. There's very few Phil Spencers or Joe Statons out there who are just so used to it and are really good at it. They had good information to give for future plans, and I would say the only thing that did, I think, come off a little too flippant maybe was the announcement of canceling split screen.
Yeah, they
should have been given the reason why, and I imagine it's just because the game doesn't work with it. We can't get it to work.
They did say they were moving resources away from it, right, to work on the other issues.
It was so quick, and that is something people had been looking forward to, even if it's not something most of us are going to care about. It was very quickly covered. Like
split screen. I feel like we'll talk about that probably as a whole.
It's something that, it's on the whole. I think his introduction on everything, the things he talked about, the way he talked about them, was good. He was as good as giving very bad information up front can be. Joe being there obviously really helped. Joe knows how to talk about stuff, and I think people will trust him more when it's being said. Because, overall, it's almost only negative news for the short term, matched with positive possibilities for the long term. And so trying to sell something like that is not easy. And they did a pretty good job of it.
Sean Barron, he started talking, and right away, he kind of didn't shy away from some of the stuff the previous people on did. You know what I mean? Right away, he's like, yeah, it's going to take some time.
Calling out Jerry Hook?
Yeah, basically, Jerry Hook. It was nice seeing a younger guy. That was cool, but that's not really relevant. But it's
hopefully he has better taste in custom.
But I mean, he was pretty upfront with, hey, this is going to take months. Hey, this season's our target, might not hit it. Hey, so our goal is to do this. This one's kind of a little iffy because it's a little vague, but hey, yeah, so we're trying to do this. It felt a little more honest, I guess. I mean, I've never really considered 343 dishonest, which I know is blasphemy to say online over the last few years. The coding system, it wasn't what they planned. No, it's pretty good. Anyways, but him specifically, it felt like he was kind of just like, hey, this is what it is. I'm just going to tell you what will happen, and let's see how it goes, kind of.
Yeah, I would actually say so. As somebody that put in over 2,000 hours of Halo 5, and has been in the four, it's me. Bingo. So it's somebody who's been there and has been in the in the Waypoint forums, has been interacting with the developers.
I'm sure they're good today.
Yeah. So yeah, I'm sure they're great today. The thing that stood out to me. I think you're right. So you can maybe not be dishonest or you're not lying, but still not be a stand-up or
be more corporate, right?
Well, yeah, it's not that. It's that, coming out and basically saying, hey, we've fallen down on stability and performance. Yeah. I mean, there's things that if you look on social media even, or what's trending with Halo and stuff or what people are just yelling about.
Dangerous.
It's generally around the content, right? And I've said since we did our last show, I said I almost don't want anything to come out that's going to bring people back until they fix the fundamentals of this game. To me, it's like the equivalent of okay, I'm going to get rich right when my health is so bad I can't do anything. Like, you don't want to bring people back to a game that's where you're having the desync, where you're having the lag compensation issues that they're having. He called them UCN issues, like basically what the difference between what people think is happening and what the server thinks is happening.
UCN is what? Universal Content Network?
I don't even know what that stood for. There's an acronym I wrote down for the first time in my
Yeah, they
life,
didn't say what it stood for. It kind of annoyed me. I'm pretty sure it's a common acronym.
But basically, he was talking about the polish, right? Like how the game plays, and anybody who's been playing, still been playing. If you get into custom games, that doesn't always work, right? And there's just, if you're on PC, you have all kinds of issues. And so he was very upfront about that, and I liked what he said. This is the thing that stood out to me more than anything else. He says, we're going to be sharing information. We're going to create this dialogue. We're going to try to do this more regularly. There's not going to be any hiding.
Yes.
And that has been one of the most frustrating things to me as somebody who's been, part of the Halo community forever. And I don't sit there and, bag on 343, but that's always been frustrating. But it's because it's like some of those things, just like, there's a certain segment that knows they exist, but maybe because it's not known on a broad level, they don't talk about it because it could be used against them. Yeah. He came out and just gave more meat to the crowd. But in a way, to me, that gave me more confidence. The fact that he was able to come out and just say, these are issues, and I think a lot of the general community, even the ones that bag on Halo, that don't play Halo anymore, don't know that these issues have existed. So I'm happy that they said that. I'm also happy that that they talked about getting the foundation up to where it is, and saying that we're going to focus on these foundational issues before we get into the nice to haves, before we get into all the modes and the features and the things that everybody wants. We need to make sure that these things, this foundation, gets fixed first. He said that was the best thing that they said.
This line, like less promises, more something. I don't remember what the more was, but it kind of resonated with me. Where it's like, okay, yeah, like let's focus. It's kind of weird because it's like clearly it's going to take so much longer to do this, but kind of because they've said it's going to take this long, it feels more realistic. Like, hey, like if they're saying it's going to take to end of 23 to fix this, they better fix this, right? Or I think they'll actually get it done by then, because that's a long goddamn time. Right?
Yeah, I mean, and hopefully, what I'm hoping, because he did also say that their target, like March, is where it's going to start to feel more like the live service. They
used the word
seasonality.
Seasonality. There we go. Cool
word. The seasonality. 13 months, right? That's kind of, or 13 weeks is the 13 months. Yeah, that's what we're on right now. 13 weeks is.
There'll be only 3 months short of that between season 2 and 3.
Yeah. I mean,
season 2 gets a mini season. I know, but still, it's a funny joke.
That's a long time. I mean, we're talking almost a year and a half after the.
I saw like Clobrel talked on Twitter like he was. Maybe they should have just called this season 3 and then called
honestly, it kind of feels.
It should have been. You could have called it season 2.5 or something. But as it is, the winter update, it's got a lot of stuff, but it's not what people are going to expect moving forward from a season.
Right.
It's not 100 thing battle pass. It's not 2 developer made maps. It's not what we were expecting for a season 3. So
it feels
I do wonder what the heck.
It's a way to kind of, right now the player base for Halo has been fluctuating between 15 and 20, right, for the past 2 months or so. The winter update kind of feels like a way to just keep that base there as they work out the other kinks and the other problems and the other issues. Just until then, hey, we're just going to keep the base here with an update that honestly is a lot more than I initially expected, especially because it releases in November, bro. That's fall, right? That's not a winter update, okay? That's a mid-fall
That's
start.
That's over a month and a half before winter.
Exactly.
So let's talk about some of the things that we do like. So let's get into some of a couple of the. Again, this doesn't make everything all right, but these for people that have been playing Halo, I think some of these things will be big deals actually.
Yeah.
Match XP.
God, thank you. Yes.
I've been playing. I've been playing Battlefield 2042, and it's actually really fun now. You know why? They fixed the fundamentals. It's just fun to play, and the servers work. But it uses the exact same system as Halo for its battle pass, except for one difference, and that is there's a experience thing that is always makes it tick up a lot faster.
Okay.
Like just that one little
GXP.
change. Yeah. Because it's got all the same thing. It's got all these little pips, and once you fill enough pips, you get to the next level of the battle pass. You know, instead of it being a number thing, like with Halo. But like, and you've got these things. Oh, you got to get 20 sniper kills, kill 20 people with a submachine gun. But then you're always going up with the experience per match. And so even if I get annoyed, I have to keep using an SMG. At least I'm still getting experience. So
I was a little scared when they said it's not going to replace the battle pass, the challenge system. I'm like, okay, well, but then he was like, but it will be the main way to progress the pass. I'm like, yes, okay,
see, that's the thing. Yeah, challenge system is a good additive. It shouldn't be the way. It should just be oh shit, you did something really cool. You get a big bonus. Yeah.
Yep.
That's kind of what Battlefield feels like. Like if I do well in a Battlefield match, I get a shit ton of experience. I get like multiple pips just from the experience. Then I might get more from challenges. Like,
and I imagine
that system just works
to like medals and probably match score to encourage you to actually play the objective and whatnot. Like, hopefully it works well. And I kind of did buy the reasoning for why they're launching it as a beta per se, and they're not releasing it into a new season because it is a new system. They want to test it, work out the problems, blah blah blah. I get it. It makes sense. And Magic XP, hell yeah.
Yeah. So he said, rewards based on how you do, regardless of the mode. No matter what mode you're playing, you'll get that. And then he also talked about more of an overlying, ranking. And I don't know if that's
like
coming...
Spartan levels, I'm guessing, right? 1 to 152.
So no matter what, like even if you're not playing Battle Pass, you're getting it's adding towards something. So all this is great because honestly, the Battle Pass, even the weeklies right now are just I don't care what
very hit or miss. Like most of them are bad. Most of them are mediocre. Some of them are okay.
Some of the challenges are just awful, and it's like I still, I get forced to play SWAT all the time. It's like I don't know how Nick does it. That's not Halo.
So nice.
It's not Halo. So
it's great when you've got a really bad ping, and so you get shooter's advantage on everyone, and then you think you're great at it.
Right. Then you think you're awesome at it. You're
Commando
the best.
SWAT is especially awesome.
Oh my goodness! But so that was talking about the 30 tier free battle pass basically being a beta. That's something I'm looking forward to just because even just on the weeklies, right? Like just to get away from this like being forced to do the challenges.
Exactly.
Not only for yourself, but for the people that you're playing with. You can tell when somebody's got a challenge, like you're trying to kill somebody and your teammates there and like they're trying to get behind them to do like a back smack. It's like, come on, dude. It's like just shoot him in the head, like, and get this thing
before they
over
change
with.
them. There's people just camping the wasp spawn because like I need 3 wasp kills. Okay, like come on, I need this.
It was kind of ridiculous. So all right, so that's some of the stuff that he talked about. Let me see here. Like, what are some other things that kind of
the battle pass is Mark 5, right? So that's the Reach one, the season 1 core, and I believe it's gonna come with all of those stuff that people thought was the kind of missing from the game, the knife in the shoulder, a couple other things they saw in the marketing and whatnot. That's cool. That's kind of like a nod to the community. Like, yeah, you know what? Like, we know you guys wanted this, and I don't know what the original plans for it were, but at least this right now they're giving it for free to players. That's cool, right? Small things, but
yeah. I mean, these are small things. For me, the number one is just good. Like you were just saying, Jesse, if the game feels good, just get it there. Get it so I don't have to chase battle pass. That would probably increase my experience 100%. Any thoughts about the? So we'll just kind of finish off the week the winter update before we move forward. Anything else about the winter update that kind of stood out to you guys?
Yeah, there's still a fair bit on here, to be honest.
Okay.
Like the 2 Forge maps Okay, can you guys hear us? Oh, one sec, Abe, you would. They can't hear you right now. Give me 1 second. Okay, can you check chat really quick?
I'm looking at on your screen. I can see your entire monitor screen.
Yeah, that's what I'm trying to. But I think they can hear us now, so you can keep going while I try and fix this.
Okay, all right. Can you guys can hear us? Can you hear my voice, or just Souls? Testing.
I can hear you.
You can hear me
Okay,
through YouTube. You're botting a little bit there. All right. Well, hey. So it looks like basically Jesse's house was struck down, by lightning.
Yeah,
Oh, and you're still botting. But anyways, we're gonna try to kind of keep going with this until everything gets back on track. I want to first thank everybody in the chat that's kind of stuck with us. Really appreciate you guys. So this isn't nothing. This isn't the kind of thing you plan for. Just like just like roadmaps in Halo. It all works. Oh my goodness! This must have been like what they felt like when they released the new playlist and Big Team Battle broke around Christmas. All right, Soul, you want me to give you? I'm going to give you a few more minutes here because I don't want to talk while you're trying to figure that out. Okay.
No, you can totally figure talking if you want, no problem.
Okay, Jesse, are you there? All right, I'm going to just keep going, guys. So I'm going to try to. I'm just going to keep, doing what I do best, which is just talk. And Soul and Jesse, when you're able to jump in, let's go ahead and do that. So I do want to. Oh, good. All right. So where we left off at, and that was basically what I asked you there. So was whether you wanted to jump into some of the Forge stuff now or later.
Yeah, the Forge stuff. I mean, I don't know. There's still technically more season. I mean, sorry, winter continuously stuff to talk about. Okay, here we go. That's a good Band-Aid fix. Sorry. Okay,
that's the Band-Aid. That's the Band-Aid you get when you don't have good health insurance. But we'll just have to deal with that for now.
You know what? That's not the worst.
All right. So let's talk about the rest of what the November update, the winter update's going to be. And so they announced 2 new Forge maps that are going to come out with the beta of Forge, and also the co-op. So the things that kind of stuck out there. So they had a 4v4 map that called Argyle, which is basically kind of supporting a stealth playstyle.
Yeah, that was the asymmetrical one, right, with the one flag.
Yeah, I believe. Well, this one he said there's dual grapple shots, dual snipers. So maybe.
Oh no, that was my bad. That was the other one. Yeah, sorry.
Yeah, so I think it's the other one that actually had the for the new mode. So that looked interesting. It offered some new gameplay, opportunities. The other one was the detachment, the CTF influence one, which with unique flag routes. He basically said this was the first one with a teleporter, and they came out with this new mode, which stood out to me, especially as somebody who's been kind of diving into all the Forge leaks. So they had this new mode that's going to be coming out in November, which is the Covert One flag. It's the Spy versus Mercs.
Yeah.
It's asymmetrical loadouts. This reminded me a little bit of. Did you ever play like the old Splinter Cell Spy versus Mercs?
Oh, they had the multiplayer. Yeah. I mean,
it gave me a little bit of that feel to it.
It's definitely a reference to something, right? But I knew the moment they said it, I'm like, yeah, I'm way too young to get whatever this is referencing.
Oh, that's right, you're a kid. You don't remember anything. So basically, said the attacking team is going to have pulse carbine, sidekicks, unlimited camo. Defenders will have commandos, energy sword, unlimited threat sensors. So you basically take turns on each side of it. Right?
Yeah.
So it's one flag, and this is. To me, what's really stands out with this, first of all, I think it sounds like a cool mode. Me and my buddies used to play the Splinter Cell thing, which was obviously much slower paced, but this could be, give you a different sort of intensity and almost feel like a different game in some ways, right? And that's kind of what we were starting to see with a lot of the things they were building into the Forge. We saw people in the community start to create their own rules for games, and and you can create different loadouts. You can give people different abilities. You can even change the way people look and how they move and everything. And like, this was just sort of a tip of the iceberg, I think, with what we're going to start seeing with the community when they start to get hold of Forge and start to build not just their own maps, but their own modes into it. Right. So anything like that kind of stick out to you?
I think the interesting thing about the whole what was the mode called again?
It was
infiltration.
Covert one flag. Covert one flag.
Yeah, covert one flag.
Covert one flag. Hey, Jesse's back on his phone, and you don't sound like a robot.
Yeah, if I go upstairs, I have excellent cell phone reception. If I try and do it downstairs where I stream from, I get nothing because of the friggin' floor. So, hi.
But what's interesting was, so in the stream, right, they said something which we might touch on, might not, that I'm sure made a lot of people kind of annoyed or irritated, which was that Halo at its core is a competitive game, right? And it's for competitive, people, and the modes are competitive, blah, blah, blah. Yet this one here is clearly a really kind of lax social game, at least on paper. Once we actually start playing it, I'm sure
if you get the whole quote, it wasn't about the game being like super competitive. Dan actually put up a really good post about it on our forums that explained it pretty well, I think.
Okay, I will check that out. I only watched the video once, and I was driving. But in general, though, one of my biggest issues, or my biggest, I feel like, limitations with Halo Infinite has been lack of social game modes, social experiences. Because, the hardcore or the competitive crowd is the core crowd, sure, right? But it's the social crowd that really kind of keeps everything else together. This mode is hopefully another step in the direction of more social things. And the fact that it's its own playlist is nice, because I got really excited when they announced, like the Rumble, Arena, social modes like Grapple, Sword. I think I played that once. And I've queued up for at least like 20, 30 times Rumble Arena. I just stopped queuing up because I just get free-for-all oddball, not even Vampire Ball. Free-for-all oddball. And I'm like, come on, who's playing this? But yeah, that part really excited me, because the more I listen to it, the more I'm like, oh, this is just clearly a fun mode, right? So hopefully we see more of that in the future, and not just through Forge, through 343 themselves.
Yeah. I think that comment needs to be taken into context, right? Because he actually did talk about, if you take that in isolation, it sounds like, oh yeah, we're balancing everything around competitive. But they actually, going back to Baron when he was talking earlier, he talked about balancing the competitive versus the social, balancing the options versus the performance, right? Like trying to find that right balance in there. And obviously, when you kind of create something like that's a mode like this, or you start to look at some of the things you're able to do in Forge, this game has a lot of potential as just a social, casual game. And he actually went into some of those details where he even talked about onboarding people, right?
Yeah.
Getting newbies into this.
Interesting though. I didn't think Halo had that bad of an onboarding process. At least compared to a lot of other games, Destiny, that I've played recently. You know what I mean? So it was interesting seeing him mention that as one of the main goals. Because I guess you could always improve, but I don't know. I mean, you play the game.
You could say that the onboarding is pretty heavily influenced by the fact that there's not that much to do.
Right.
So you don't have to explain nearly as much.
Okay.
Destiny has too much.
Yeah.
And there is no clear path for it, and their tech mistakes of having to remove content and everything made it only worse. With Halo Infinite, it's pretty much just, here, we've got a campaign. In November, you can play it co-op online. Forge is just going to be sort of a tool that people mess around with and make some awesome stuff until March, when custom browser finally shows up, and then there's going to be a lot more stuff to start having to onboard people with.
I think that right there was my biggest disappointment of everything they said.
Mine too.
Was just the fact that custom browsers coming March. That was the biggest blow for me, in my opinion.
Yeah, to me it almost feels like where we're going to be in November is still going to feel like, yeah, there's going to be a lot more stuff, right? There's going to be Forge. People
But you
will
have to
start
know how to
making
find
things.
it.
Yeah,
Exactly.
and I think for those of us, and I think maybe some of the people even in our chat and us, who do have community nights that do have get-togethers regularly, we'll find stuff, we'll put it together. We're gonna have fun with stuff people are making and testing it out. But I almost feel like we're still in that beta / preview program sort of stage in a lot of respects, right? Everything from the ranking system, which what they talked about is what I want, but they're being honest and saying that, hey, that's in beta, and that's a core piece to the game. The custom browser is a core piece to the game. Obviously, all the performance is core to the game. So like, there's a lot of things that are going to be, from November to March are going to be still. I mean, it's going to feel like we're kind of in a just
they called it the Forge beta for a reason. It's not
right.
not prime time ready.
And technically, the Xbox today has certain tools that we didn't have in the past to find Forge modes. LFG is a big one. I've barely used it myself. I know a lot of people that do use it. I wouldn't be surprised if they leverage that a bit when Forge releases. Like, hey, you can check out this, get some cool Forge modes, blah, blah, blah. Not ideal.
Well, and I'm sure even there's going to be workarounds, right?
Yeah,
like I'm sure we're going to have Discords for Halo Forge stuff.
I mean,
even our site will probably have
Halo 5
put out things.
Took a while to release a custom browser. Before then, I had to just find people's accounts, download their file, get some people in and play. I mean, that's kind of how people have done Forge for a long time now. So yeah, it sucks. The browser's not coming till March, so it's not like super easy, but it's still available, at least. Like small silver line.
Right. Well, let's get into Forge a little bit. So there definitely, he did say today wasn't going to be a deep dive.
Yeah.
However, I would say some of the bullets they added in there were good pieces of information. I think generally we had some ideas, but this really gave us the context. So anybody who's played a lot of Halo 5, if you played Forge, if you've done custom games, Halo 5 had some pretty cool Forge maps from the community, right? So they use that as sort of a relative point. In Halo 5, you're able to use 1,600 objects. In Halo Infinite, you'll be able to use 7,000. So it's exponentially more objects. But not just that. He talked about the fact that, and I've heard from other people too that have been messing around with this, that with the object scaling, you get, like, there's infinite, no pun intended, scaling, which means that, you don't have to stack a bunch of blocks to create a wall. You could take one thing and blow it up and make your wall, right?
I feel like they really wanted to name drop Toy Story there, but they couldn't. So
right. So that the other thing that and I'm hearing myself echo, Jess. I don't know if that's coming through you, Jesse, or not. The other thing that really stood out to me, and this was not I don't think confirmed before, but he talked about the nav mesh. So all the bots in Forge will be able to navigate their way through these levels for testing as well as play.
That was super cool. I did not expect that, I'll be honest. Even though it makes sense. Yeah, sorry,
Yeah, no. I mean, jump in there. I mean, go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, like,
I'm talking.
It makes perfect sense when you think about it, right? They have bots, they put them in the game, they're going to do what they do. But I didn't realize that obviously there needs to be like a procedure or an AI or whatnot to let them do what they do for maps that aren't 343 maps, right? I kind of assumed they just learned the 343 maps. So if you can pop them in any map and they like earn it, that's kind of cool,
Yeah, well, to me, that's a sign of the future. I said this back in the when the beta came out, and we saw the bots. And if anybody, this is kind of off topic, but I think it is something to be aware of and think about as we kind of move forward with Halo and some of the potential, right? As we kind of get into the future, which I do think there's a lot of exciting possibilities. There was Microsoft had this conference a couple years ago where they were showing, it was with Bleeding Edge. I know that game is totally dead, but they were showing how bots were learning how to play as humans. Like they record all the data and they would start to.
This is how it all starts.
Yeah, this is eventually, we'll have whatever you call in Terminator. What is it? The
Skynet.
Skynet.
Yeah.
Eventually we'll have Skynet.
Yeah, we're already past that. Yeah, we're done.
Yeah, we're all coming to the end, but at least we'll have good Halo bots before the end. So, so like basically what they're doing is they were showing how these bots were like learning how to play like humans, so that even if your teammates dropped out, they would start to feel more dynamic and more human-like. And so like what they're talking about with these bots sound more advanced than what you typically get with the heavy scripting. If they're going to be able to learn their way around your custom made maps, I assume that over time, with the data, with using their cloud, these probably will continue to evolve and get better and better until eventually they are Skynet and kill us all. But until then, like I said, this is something to look forward to in Halo. And also the other exciting thing about that is I think this opens up opportunities for PvE content.
Yes, please.
Yes, like it really opens up a whole nother door to go PvE down the road.
I was really hoping that like part of them talking about Forge and being in beta is, and we've put together this PvE firefight type mode that you guys can try out. I was like, oh, there's so many possibilities for where they can go with Forge outside of just the regular PvP we're used to from it. Not only just looking way better than it ever has, and not so that's a Forge map, but also offering different types of content than we've ever been able to get from it because it's such a engine, essentially.
Yeah.
Is this the first confirmation we've had?
We've seen people make game modes. We've seen them do some crazy stuff with the maps. Now you got the AI in there.
Somebody made a goddamn Toy Story movie in it. My goodness.
Is this the first confirmation we've had, by the way, that we can put bots in Forge? Did we already know that?
It was not confirmed. I saw
maybe from them, but maybe the first time from them we've heard it. There's just been so many leaks; it's impossible to remember what they said and what people found.
Yeah, I saw leaks where somebody was using the commando on bots, but I didn't know if that was I can't remember if that was a Forge map or not, or they were just testing out not the commando, the new weapon.
Bandit.
The bandit, yeah. So yeah, I think this was the first sort of confirmation that they would be there, and again, I that's one of those things that is mentioned. It's kind of under the radar, but you start to think about its potential with all the tools that with all the context that we would have if you've been watching leaks on this. And we'll probably have to do a whole nother show with this with John when he's allowed to speak about it. But I'll just say this. For me, just in conclusion with the Forge stuff, I do believe that Forge is not just something that can help Halo get some legs. I think it's something that's not even out in the industry. If you put all the pieces together with it right now, I think it's something that could separate itself from really every game, and I think that the potential there is really the sky is almost the limit on that with what people can build in there. We know they can build big maps. We know they can. And
they've been doing all this early building without being able to save properly, without being able to have the correct lighting system, with an earlier, broken, less feature-filled version of everything. Yet they're still making these things that look far better than they've ever been able to do in a previous Forge, where they've been able to make some nice-looking things in the past.
Yep. Yeah. So, we've seen them like even build in like point systems where you can unlock, weapons based on, how many points you keep, like all kinds of crazy stuff.
Calling airstrikes and shit. Yeah.
Yeah. It's pretty cool. So, and then they showed some canvases. We definitely need to talk about that. Those canvases looked really damn good. I wish we could show those to the group right now. I think we planned on it before Jesse got hit by lightning.
Yeah. I mean,
still alive somehow. I don't know how. It hit me right in the head.
Did they release like high-res pictures of that stuff, by the way, or no?
I don't know.
I don't think so. I think it was only the video.
Yeah, I only saw the video.
We got pictures from people who had gotten leaks from like their media site or something that I had ready.
Okay,
but
I can try putting it up. It's just kind
you
of
have enough upload bandwidth. You might be able to share your screen, but do you have more than one monitor or no?
I do. I'm sharing my middle monitor right now, so I'm doing the other stuff.
Okay, yeah. So they're in our group chat. Just sure the group chat, and you can pull up each picture and show them individually. They were pretty good quality.
A bunch of arguing. Blah blah blah.
I left multiple discords today.
All right. So, anything else you guys want to say about the November, and for everybody else like who's excited about Forge, definitely check out the leaks. And I think we're gonna dive deeper in that when we can have probably need to focus a whole show on now based on what we know and what's been leaked, and just really kind of start talking about everything that's possible there. Ready to move on to the next season.
Yep.
Season 3. All right. So Echoes Within, March 7th. I feel like that's the date that this game is out of beta.
Yeah,
Pretty much.
honestly, kind of, right?
Especially if the custom browser hits at that time, and I think that's when Forge can become mainstream. It can be this thing people keep talking about and showing off, and if you're a fan of it and you have friends and you find things and you can play, but for just the regular person who sees this free-to-play game and they're told all these crazy things are in it, until the custom game browser, once that's ready to go, that's like step one in sort of the relaunch, which every live service game does 2 or 3 times a year. That's the first really big relaunch, and then when Certain Affinities mode hits, that's like the big mainstream thing if they do it right.
Yep. So that's going to be, they talked about that being March 7th is the beginning of seasonality. Their goal to get to 13-week seasons. Now, I don't know that so when I was listening to the video, I thought he didn't really promise that this was going to be the 13-week one.
That's what I thought
They
too.
gave it a hard date in their own image.
Yeah, that's it. On their blog post. That's what surprised me too.
Yeah, it's like like I think he set it up right by not promising, like that's how they get into these situations. But that's what they're saying. So beginning of seasonality, 13-week seasons, free and paid, 100-tier battle pass. By then they said they're going to take the feedback from this beta progression system and tie it into the season 3. That's when we're going to get a custom game browser. That's when we're going to get more robust player reporting in game. I guess that's when you report cheaters, right? That kind of stuff.
Yeah, he talked a lot about having to go after cheating and really everything they can do to get it to stop, because especially at higher levels and stuff, it can get pretty bad.
I like how they emphasize those in-game reporting, because obviously that's been on the menu for a while.
Yeah. And they talked about the two new maps. I think the thing that stood out on those, he said with the big team battle, it'd be their biggest map yet. It's a desert biome with tunnels and caverns, and he basically said this is going to embrace vehicle combat, big, wide open spaces for vehicles to kind of go at each other, and so that sounded really good. For the arena, they have one that's in an Oni black site with a snow biome. I thought, I think artistically looked pretty cool in the picture he showed. That's asymmetrical. It's, there's a gravity launcher that takes you all the way across the map. So, just these maps, what kind of stands out to me as they're kind of going through the maps is just they sound like they play very different, which is cool.
Yeah.
That's the one nice thing about Halo is not when I play Call of Duty, usually it feels the same map to map. The reason I like Halo is the dynamism, because of the sandbox.
So another asymmetrical map. How do you feel about that for arena?
I'm okay with asymmetrical.
They mentioned one flag. You think it's going to be like a competitive one flag map? Like you think it'll be in the ranked playlist?
I think they were talking about that for the one that's coming out in November.
This one they also mentioned 3 modes: Stronghold, Slayer, and one flag, I believe, were the 3 modes they mentioned for this map. That'd be interesting.
I'm not a fan of regular one flag. I'll be honest with you. It's not my favorite mode. It just feels like you're sitting around. That's not my favorite when you're playing defense. So, I do think they need more symmetrical maps, right? I think that there's,
like base maps.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, yeah. So we need to get back to that a little bit, but overall, I didn't really have a problem with that. So, any thoughts about the maps on those?
They look pretty. I'll probably never touch them.
No, you'll play them, especially the
big team battle ones. Yes.
BTB.
I'm not. Well, and plus with friggin' challenges, be stuck having to do some arena. But yeah.
Well, I don't think that you're going to be. That's the other great thing is I think when they move to this next, That's the one thing I wasn't totally clear on. Like, are the weeklies going to still have the new beta progression tied in them, or are we going to have to wait till?
I think
March
the weekly
7th to
awards
get that?
will still be through the challenges. I think so.
Yeah, that's
I'm
a-
kind of hoping that not all of them are good. You know, so I can just ignore
Yeah.
the ones I don't want.
That's the thing. I don't really care for those.
Yeah.
They did talk about two new modes. They didn't go into detail, I don't believe, on those VIP and escalation. So I have no idea what those are. right
Escalation is
now.
gun game. We know that, I believe.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah.
Okay, escalation is gun game. They had mentioned that before.
VIP.
I don't know what VIP is.
Maybe probably. Oh, VIP is just only one person on your team. When they die, scores the other opponent's team. I'm pretty sure. So you have to keep that one person alive.
And
Yeah.
it changes every time they
Oh.
die, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, got
Pretty
it.
sure it's an old Halo mode. Though no mention.
Geez, you call yourself a Halo fan, Abe. My God. I
don't
knew
play
what those
VIP.
two were.
I played Slayer as much as I could. I only play all this other stuff because you guys make me. with
You
the-
play Slayer, but you're a bigger Winger fan. Disgusting.
Just anyways. Bandit rifle feels like the Reach DMR. He said it makes it much more effective at close range. Removes,
Yeah, no scope.
no
scope.
scoping on that. So
But
it's a good
also-
hip fired weapon.
It
which
has
I-
bloom though, I believe. At least if the leaks are to be believed. So I know a lot of people don't like that. Let's see how it feels.
Oh, we've got how many goddamn months before we'll ever get to touch
Exactly.
it? And they can change it
Exactly.
however they want.
Too many is the answer to that.
I'll say based on the leaks that I love the way it seems to sound and like how heavy it seems like it's going to feel like based on watching people shoot with it. So I'm excited about that. And then the shroud screen, which is a new
Super
piece
cool.
Yeah. it
a
is.
new piece of equipment. This is going to allow for some strategy with basically it's you put up, how do you describe it?
It's a smoke
force field?
smoke bomb.
But
smoke grenade.
Yeah.
Smoke
But it's not
circle
actually.
bomb.
Yeah. Basically, people can't see in
Smoke
or out
dome.
of it. Yep.
Yeah.
You can shoot people from inside of it.
And you can get shot from
Uh,
inside of it too.
Yeah, but you don't show up on the radar. So
Yep.
you can throw it down, and then you can use it as a decoy. People have to
Yeah.
go in to see if you're in there, right? So that's pretty cool.
If you guys have played Valorant, it's very similar to that giant circly thing everyone throws to block off vision. I have not played Valorant. CSGO sucks. Like me.
Big words.
I'm not gonna lie, when they said that you don't appear in the radar when you're shooting, I'm like, oh, that's so cool. Until I realized, wait, I don't really play. I don't really play social. That doesn't affect me at all.
All right. So any kind of final thoughts on the stuff? Or I mean, high level to me,
Yeah.
just that's when the game. I feel like that's going to be their chance to soft relaunch it. And right now they haven't talked about Forge, and I still think that's a underrated sort of under the, sort of in the shroud screen right now of of what's coming up for Halo and what the potential even for March when they do come out with all this other stuff.
So one thing I wanted to mention was before we got the information here, I was kind of grappling with the question myself, and now after we get the more information, it's still there. Is what is their seasonal seasonal bottleneck? What is it that's preventing them from releasing seasons at a faster pace? Is it the maps release? Is it the art team and the battle pass? Is it the modes? Is it the weapon team? Like, what do you think is really the factor that's holding them back the most with more?
If Reddit and Twitter to be believed, it's incompetence and laziness. So we
Screw
know.
Reddit and Twitter.
Oh,
so it's not all one thing, right? Like
But there's got to be like one or two things that's actually taking them longer than another thing. Is it the art team? I kind of feel like not, considering the November event's already going to have more art stuff. You know what I mean?
Well, so there's a few things. There was a lot of contractors on this, right? So we talked about some of this stuff before, but there's a lot of contractors in the game.
and a hiring freeze at Microsoft.
Yes,
It's not
that
helping,
sucks.
right? There's a hiring freeze right now.
Yep.
We don't know how long that is, and it is affecting 343 today.
Some studios have started putting jobs back up, so
Okay.
Okay,
we'll have to see.
Hopefully it's just a really short term thing. But so here high level. New leadership, new strategy. Have to rethink a lot of things. Redirect resources towards things that reprioritize.
Yeah.
And I believe that the content cadence, like they're saying that's the priority to get there. It's the number one thing, but I think they're putting as many resources as they can right now to get the fundamentals, the foundation that we talked about in previous shows and that they talked about today, to get those things down first. And then once you get that stuff, once you get the game working the way people expect it to work, once you get the PC community saying, yeah, this finally plays good, once you get all that stuff in place, then I think that's when you start turning on the pipeline. The other thing is, we've heard this before, that when they launched the game in December, that they went all hands in and threw out everything they had.
Yeah.
And we can, like, it's probably something you can rehab. Oh, go ahead.
No, sorry, I get it. I think I know what you're saying. Basically, you're thinking they might be kind of like stocking things up for the more quicker releases once they've actually fixed the foundational issues of the game, in a way.
That's one thing, but I also just think that when they launched the game, they went all hands on to launch what they launched. Then the contractors left. We've heard from, I don't want to mention names, but I can tell you, like, one contractor was really proud of his work. Loved working there, wanted to keep working on it, but hey, I'm having a baby and I need to go get something that I know is going to be around. And if I stay on as a contractor, I can't do that. So contractors leave after a game ships generally, right? Because you might keep some people, but it's not going to be, a guarantee I'm going to be here 2 years or whatever, or 18 months or whatever it is. So, there was that issue. And that issue kind of compounded with the fact that they gave us everything they had at launch, and they didn't have a pipeline. And so now they're trying to build up that pipeline. And that goes back to our conversation, like, hey, should they have delayed it? I mean, we won't rehash it today. I said before, yeah.
No.
I feel like I know we disagree, but I feel like, this probably was a good time to launch the multiplayer.
But then we'd have every single issue that people have caught since launch.
Yeah, I mean, there's two sides of that story, right? Yeah.
So should they have always just called? I think the compromise is, no, they shouldn't have delayed it, but they should have made it clear it was a beta and how much was in it, and held off on seasons and stuff until they felt it was more ready. So they shouldn't have delayed the entire game. They shouldn't have delayed multiplayer even. They should have delayed releasing it as a full product.
Yeah, and selling it as, here's your live service game.
Yeah,
right?
so you can sell sell the single player for $60, put it on Xbox Live. Plenty of games that have far less content out there that cost more money nowadays. But yeah, for the free-to-play multiplayer, starting that beta in mid-November, it should have just stayed a beta and not had a paid battle pass, have free incentives and different things. And as your beta is rolling, you can do paid stuff in a beta, just not right away. Just give it a little time. Like, Fortnite was in beta for how many goddamn years before it finally...
2, 3, I think, yeah.
Like, people are used to it. There are so many free-to-play games that have very long beta periods where they're still taking in money, because obviously they're not going to run a game and not make any money off it as a live service. But if they had started as a beta, kept it as a beta, okay, it's been 6 months. We feel like we have enough going in our pipeline. We can do season 1. Like, I think that in hindsight would have worked a lot better. But obviously, with it being the first time they've done it, they got it wrong, and they haven't had what you need to keep your customers happy. So
right. Yeah, how you position it, right? You call it a preview.
Yeah.
And you don't charge people, right off
people
the bat.
People are very used, like, what's Grounded? Grounded is been in an early access as a PvE co-op thing. Like, it's not PvP, you're not going to have all the microtransactions or everything, but they took their time. Obviously, a much smaller team, like, 1/20th the size or something, but
the question's always
that concept is in Microsoft. That concept is in gaming as a whole now. Of these big things can launch into beta,
and I feel like this current lead would have maybe done that.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
Yeah. So
a lot of learning on the fly.
Yeah, summary. The way this was launched was a mistake. They threw out everything they had. They didn't have a pipeline. They lost some support, some resources.
And one thing
from
I will say
contractors.
that I've seen from people is, yeah, lots of mistakes, not good enough. This latest announcement sucks. The game's not dead. That doesn't happen. You can pretty much always come back on most of these things when you're this big, you have this many resources, and you have a good enough foundation. So
Right.
them
Yep.
going back to fix the foundation, once the foundation's good, like I went back to Battlefield. Battlefield was completely borked at launch. We're now under a year later. They've done everything to fix the fundamentals. And now that it actually feels good to play, they're starting to add in content. Like this is season 2. We got a map and we got a battle pass.
And a
Like they
scoreboard.
took their and a scoreboard. Freaking I can hold start and get a scoreboard. There was a scoreboard in the game. There was just no way to access it on a controller. It was so
what the heck?
flipping dumb. Yeah, it was
But,
unbound.
Like,
But yeah, so like you can come back. You can.
yeah.
And it's starting to pick up on Steam. I think it was going up the charts again, and people are starting to talk about that it's working again. Yeah, people are starting to talk about it again. No, you're right. I would say that you can, you can.
It's not guaranteed, but you can.
Right. Yeah. That's the thing. Like you can't just assume it's going to be like people. You can't assume they're going to come back. Right.
Yep.
And that's the risk you take when you kind of launch the way they did. But to say that there's no way they could ever come back or recover is like
It's
think
a folly.
Yeah, and like we talked about some of the opportunity. You can if you can create some zeitgeist from the Forge, from eventually from doing the BR right, and that's something we don't really know anything about. So I can't really say, oh yeah, BR is going to bring everybody back. But but if you can create that zeitgeist from doing those things right, you definitely can energize the community. And it is funny. I mean, not funny. I mean, it sucks that we have to keep going through this, but MCC was probably the worst launched multiplayer game of all time.
Yeah.
AAA wise.
Yep.
And
Yeah,
the community,
Infinite has not come close to what
Not even
MCC
a little bit.
was.
and that's, I mean, obviously it's relative, right? It's not amongst the giants, but it's got more players than Infinite a lot of times.
And it's looked at as a phenomenal package, one of the best of its types.
I know people mention a lot that it has more players on PC, but overall it's still significantly lower than Infinite's total player base. Significantly lower, like in the hundreds of thousands, I'd say. But maybe not this update though. I haven't checked. Honestly,
Yeah,
the way I look at it, whenever someone asks the question or says it should have been delayed, I don't even look at it like that, man. I look at it just from a personal perspective. The game came out, I played it, I had a blast. I'm still playing it. I have 800 matches. I know you have like double that, but like for me, that's a lot for an online game. I'll tell you right now, no other online game have I had this many matches other than League of Legends on PC, which was a mistake. But but like, so to me, I get that thing like, hey, they should delay it, and I'm like, why? I had a good time. Why would I want them to delay that?
I think Jesse's response was a good one. I think it's how you position it and whether you're charging people.
That'd been nice.
Incomplete.
And knowing to do that ahead of time is so hard. Like everyone now has hindsight. We all know better than they did then. We all have a better answer than they did then. You don't know that. That's always the toughest thing. We don't know the realities of this game's development. They've been pretty open, far more than almost all others, but even then, you're never going to have the full picture. And even if you get it from someone who quit and isn't under an NDA, you just then get one side. It's impossible to know exactly what happened, and people get frustrated because they really like playing the game. They wish it was in a better state right now. So sometimes emotions take over and you go super far and say, they should hand this game to friggin' Sledgehammer when they buy them, like Tom Henderson did. And I'm like, they never look at the Call of Duty situation and think that's somehow better than this. Because I'll take slow and sloppy to start with over the shit that is Activision and their 10 freaking developers trying to feed the Call of Duty train. Like, that's not something to look at and say, they'll do a better job. No, they'll do a terrible job. They do an awful job with Call of Duty. They have to crunch. They need 10 studios. They need 30 studios overall with all the partner studios they have for those games. Like, what is Epic? Epic is like 4,000 plus people all working nonstop, crunching crazily at times on Fortnite, mostly riding the back of a decent playing game with a bajillion IPs crammed into it. It's like, these aren't things you look at and say you should be like that. What they should be is pretty much what they just talked about being. They're what 343 is. They're able to make a really good game. Now they just need to figure out, how do we make this really good game something that is sustainable?
Yeah.
And they're learning on the fly. It sucks. They'll get crap deservedly from people that it's taken so long. But in the end, I don't want them to be like Activision or Fortnite, or like, the only one that might be close is Apex. But even there, it was a really slow start.
Yeah.
And they were in a genre that was just really big and it had this enormous launch, 75 million people. Then the first couple seasons sucked. Like they had to figure it out, and they have. So Sea of Thieves for a season sucked. Like, almost no one ever figures it out right away. This does just feel like them taking
a little longer.
Yeah. Not even
taking
a little
longer,
no,
a fair bit longer.
Taking longer, and then I think the expectations rise every time too, right? Because we could step back and go, well, what was Rainbow Six Siege at launch? What was Fortnite?
Rainbow Six Siege? They had their Operation
Cleanup
Cure or something where they took 1 year off, a full 12 months. They just took off to fix the game.
Yeah, no, and that's fair. Like when you look back at a lot of these, and you look at Destiny, previous. Now this is slower than that, but I think
Destiny now this season sucks. It's so bad.
I do think though the difference is. Oops, did we lose Soul now? Did we lose Soul? What happened?
That's ridiculous. Well, if Soul's down, then we're down.
No, I'm here. I'm backstage.
Are we down? I see you. Chat, can you hear us? Can you still hear us? Hello. Oh no.
Yeah, now his fiber internet goes down.
Okay, they can still hear us. So let's keep going.
Okay, so
hey,
did
Mario,
he must have run it. I wonder, did he run it through StreamYard and not his own thing?
Yeah, he's backstage. His internet is fine. Okay.
One sec. I can bring you back up, friendo. Boop. Boop.
This is like
doing this on mobile.
Oh crap! I got Jesse's face.
Don't do that again.
Give me a sec.
This game. This stream is brought to you by the Slip Space engine.
Did you stream through StreamYard, Soul, or are you streaming through OBS?
I'm streaming through OBS. I just have a browser source. And I just kind of cropped everyone.
Okay, I just was wondering.
Yeah, somehow I got backstage. I have no idea how. I'll be honest.
You might have just pressed the wrong button sometimes.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah, what the heck?
Yeah, sorry. It doesn't. Normally, I get to see all that, and I can just, I heard you move, or I saw you move. But I'm holding my phone to my head, so I'm not seeing the screen right now. Sorry.
Yeah. Anyways, you guys were talking about. I actually remember.
So we talked about other live service games. I do say that the thing that happens though is the expectations do change, right? If you are the average Joe Schmo gamer, probably didn't come to Fortnite when it was in its early stages.
Yep.
I didn't.
And you didn't know
come
about
to
it.
Apex. Yeah, you didn't come to. You weren't playing Apex in the
for a
first year,
data-driven company like Microsoft. Like they know that what people expect from them. So even if you can give all the best answers to the world to people like us who will listen and be empathetic, like they know in the long run, if they don't deliver, people just aren't going to care. It's a finicky group for casuals because they're like, and it can also be pretty finicky for the hardcore because the hardcore have very high expectations. So you got to match them. And then the casuals, they just want things to work and they want there to be stuff to do. They want to see numbers go up and they just want to have fun. And then when the game's completely broken for the entire time around Christmas, then, doesn't help.
Casual mode. Yeah, the casual mode is basically broken.
It's basically what we've been saying for a few months now, which is that, hey, they're going to take some time, but they're going to get it. Except they're going to need some more time than we originally thought, right? We were thinking November. Now it's going to take till March.
Something that we didn't really talk about, and it kind of goes back to one of the questions, and I don't think we have the answers on it, so that's why we don't talk about it. But we know, the tech debt with the engine, with the net code, there is things they're still, and I know Jez kind of briefly touched on this on one of the Xbox 2 podcasts where he said like they've already rewritten 70% of the game engine in the last couple years or something along those lines, and it seems like they're still trying to work through some of the issues that have built up over that time. So we don't really know what the status of that is. At least I haven't heard what the status of that is, but I assume that what I hope too is that, one of the things they're investing is continuing to invest in that engine. Hopefully get that to a point where they can be a little bit more efficient building things. But
you know what, Abe, you mentioned
I think
something.
one area that's pretty different from Battlefield is I feel like Battlefield is on a ancillary team, and now the next team is working on the next Battlefield, and I don't think like the main team's working on the next Battlefield. I don't think that's going to be the case with Halo. I think they've got, and I think these delays kind of make it clear that they just have like the whole team. It's just about this game. And so for them to fix things and add things and do what you need to do to have a relaunch that's successful, I think they're fully committed. So in that sense, it definitely does feel I feel more comfortable assuming that by the end of next year, the game will be in a really good spot than I do with some other ones where it's sort of like, we're going to fix Anthem. And then a few months later, never mind, too much work, not enough money.
Yeah, there's no worry of that.
Halo's not going anywhere. I don't care how many people say Halo dead, get rid of 343, fire Bonnie Ross 8 billion times. Like it's, would be any good. Like, what are you going to do? You're going to get a new studio, have them spend 6-7 years to make another Halo game. And in that time, what do you do?
That won't play like Halo, by the way.
Yeah, you just have id make a game that's Doom, but it's Master Chief. I don't get where some people want to go with things.
It's not even worth entertaining takes like that because they're not.
I'd say that, but oh my god, I've seen so many people in the gaming journalism industry talking like that today, and I'm like, I don't understand where that would be better than giving 343 the resources to rebuild and do what they need to do, which it seems like they are in the middle of doing.
Abe, you mentioned something earlier. It's really quick.
Mm-hmm.
The longer 343 take, right? The more time they're given, the more expectations you have of them, and that is 100% true of me. When I heard the dates, for example, for today, I was talking to my brother, and I'm like, listen, March better be like this, better be fixed, that better be fixed, this better be fixed, because they're taking so damn long. Right, so it is kind of like a double-edged blade in that sense, where it's like you were getting all this time, but now the weight is once again on our shoulders, and it's getting heavier and heavier and heavier. Tough situation.
People are expecting that big moment,
exactly.
Big, like this. They turned the corner, and they were hoping that was coming November. I was listening to a lot of the I was listening to a lot of the YouTube podcasting community. They're like, we got hope that maybe November is the relaunch. I'm like, oh no. Because we knew. I mean, I don't know. Like it kind of like had that.
I told you so. Who gives?
Yeah, but
once people see a Forge map where they can, live inside Bart Simpson's butt, then I think the game will be the biggest game out there. It's going to come.
Yeah, so the Forge stuff will definitely change things around. But all right, so let's kind of.
We did get a taste. We got a taste of the co-op, and I do think that's getting lost in the shuffle a bit. The co-op in Halo Infinite is some of the most fun I've ever had in any video game. So with that hitting in November, Jesus Christ, don't freaking delay it. I do think once that hits and it's there and everyone can do it in not in split screen, but everyone can do it online. I do think that will get some goodwill and that'll get some player base back. A lot of people who are waiting to play with their friends, and you can play it either on PC or on a console, an old one, a new one, your freaking phone if you're insane. Like, because the friends and family plan just went live today for Game Pass Ultimate in Ireland and Colombia.
Really?
And it's like today. It's
nice.
$9 US in Colombia, and it's $22. It's 22 euros in Ireland. Whatever, I think they use euros. It's super cheap, and you're like, hey, you want to play Halo with me? You go in for a month for friggin', $6, $7, $8, and we can all play it together. That type of stuff always helps.
Yeah, I mean, no, that's a good point. The other thing is, and this is something we don't really have information on yet, too, but part of what I'm curious about is, again, going back to the Forge, how quickly can they start implementing some of that stuff in playlist?
Yes.
How, like, that's a big, like,
if they get their own stuff in playlist at least, then that would be awesome.
Just start getting some of those
the
things
Forge
in there.
Council playlist.
And that ends up being kind of like giving you a lot of stuff to do from, November to March, which is something we did not have from May to November, right?
Yeah. I mean, it definitely could increase the activity, your activity options, especially if you get some sort of ongoing progression to go along with it. These are questions they haven't answered yet, but things that we'll have to look out for, because if they're able, that one thing of just being able to work with the community, get those, whether it's their own maps or it's working with the community for their best maps. And I'll tell you, the community sometimes puts together some of the best stuff, because you're now broadening your creative pool for not just the few hundred developers that are 343 and just the handful of people that are really focused on map design. You're broadening that to potentially millions of people who not only will be so we talked about the potential of Forge, but one of the things that's missed is that now you're bringing in the PC community, who's going to be a lot more engaged than the console community with that. In addition to that, with the xCloud stuff, you're going to have kids on their iPads building stuff. My son doesn't even like to play Fortnite to shoot people. He likes to build stuff in it. And I really think that, again, this part of it's being underestimated. We
had a couple of super chats. Yeah, sorry.
Yeah, go ahead.
We had one earlier from Zabit saying, buy a drink on me, Jesse. Wait, Jesse came back, and we somehow brought it back together. So, hey, not the worst.
We're holding it by the shoestrings. It's Inception. Somebody said.
And we
just
had
his super Canadian internet will probably be fine. There's still nonstop lightning strikes around here, and I don't have home internet. But I mean, I am in Tampa Bay, which is like literally the bay of lightning.
Man, you sound
on my
good.
phone.
Yeah.
If I go upstairs, I get really good reception, but downstairs is where my computer is. So when I was trying down there, I don't get any reception. But it's a nice phone, so.
There's another super chat from Mariano Pampa saying, there's too many games out there now. If 343 gave everything everyone asked, I bet most people would play a few months, then go back to COD, Fortnite, Apex. Halo has issues, but they have a plan.
Yeah, the certain affinity mode, if it's a good BR, is the type of thing that keeps people all the time. But I don't think Halo, without becoming some sort of IP hog, will be the same in the end, because Warzone pulls in tons of IP. They had a friggin' Godzilla and King Kong in. Fortnite is almost entirely built on other IP. Like, a lot of the biggest games are either legacy titles like CSGO that just have these insane audiences all around the world, or they're newer ones that are battle royale based. And unless you're Apex, you're really focused on other IP.
So speaking of, did you guys catch that they kind of implied that a little bit when they were talking about identity with your Spartan?
Yeah, they did. That's why I just thought about that too.
Yeah.
So yeah, they
Doom
talked
Slayer.
about. So we're not going to get Bart Simpson as a character in Halo.
But we are going to get more stuff, though. I think that's what I kind of took.
Bart Simpson shaped helmet.
Or like a Star Wars Halo themed thing. That'd be cool. Stuff like that. Like
Darth Vader outfit. Like the stuff. I think they will go after things that have armor.
Yes.
So that they can have this IP's version of a Spartan suit, which could look like people have done mock-ups of the Doomslayer, the Dovahkiin, the power armor from Fallout.
Yep.
I mean, you could say the last Fracture event is pretty much Jinro's Wolf Brigade.
Yeah,
honestly, they took that look. Those, like, my God, they take that look. But it's been a look in a lot of things.
So if you're a fan only of classic stuff, you might wanna prepare yourself.
Yeah, there's a deep voice guy who's been on the show in the past that's probably gonna be pretty pissed in the future.
It was an interesting thing to say, though. It was.
Yeah, no, it is. They mentioned that it is part of free to play games now, right?
Oh, you know
that
we're
is
probably getting the
people
reindeers
want
this winter.
Hmm.
Huh? Yeah, we probably are. The leak stuff like a year ago, the reindeer stuff probably getting that this winter.
Was that like a Santa hat too or something?
Yeah, Santa hat too. We might get that this winter too.
Thanks for the super chat, Mario. By the way, Mariano's a really nice guy. I play with Halo with him sometimes. So,
oh, nice.
Good to see you, man. But and I would agree with the last thing he says. But they have a plan. That was that's kind of like what we focused on early in this podcast, was really kind of looking at the new management, right? And some of the they're being very direct and kind of open about some of the issues they are having.
Yeah, and they also made it seem like they're going to keep talking. Yeah, like they sort of turtled for a bit, got their ducks in a row, and now they're not going to do that again. Is also the plan.
Yep. Yep. And that's the thing. You stay in front of this stuff. You let stuff build up. People will start thinking the worst, and they will expect more the longer you take to talk.
I wouldn't be surprised if we see that the system, the MCC system, I think it was, where it had a list of the bugs and a list of the progress on it and blah blah blah. They even mentioned before that they wanted to bring that in for Infinite. Wouldn't be surprised if we see that in the coming weeks.
Yep. So let's see. Should we go to the community questions?
There was one
three
big
of them.
ticket item left that we have not talked about.
Oh,
Speaking
oh,
of reallocating resources, this is a tangent I thought of a while back. They announced that they're removing split screen. We didn't really talk about this. Sorry, split screen campaign co-op. I don't know if it was did they basically say it was a permanent removal, that they're never going back to it and trying to bring it back in again.
I'm assuming it is. I'm assuming it's gone.
What do you guys think?
And I don't think it wouldn't be that big a deal if Bonnie hadn't said a few years ago that moving forward they'll always have it.
Yeah.
So, and then to never actually ever have it again. I think that's a lot of the missteps where you just, if you definitively say you're doing something and then you don't do it, you are just opening yourself up to completely understandable anger from people. Because it's like, if you
Distrust,
say,
right?
we're going to.
God, okay, we lost him.
Jesse, are you still there?
Speaking, he left StreamYard. He'll probably join in momentarily
Oh,
again.
okay.
But yeah, speaking of that, okay, so technically, Halo Infinite does have split screen. It's only for the multiplayer. All right.
Yeah, it doesn't count.
No. I mean, that was a big issue in Halo 5 too. You couldn't even play with your friends, like your siblings on, like you just multiplayer. That was kind of a hit. You know what I'm saying? But what do you think Abe, about the removal of split screen?
I thought that was stupid for them to promise it to begin with. Same with ray tracing. Like they were promising.
I'm back. God damn it! My cheek hit the back button on my phone. That's why
we can see your ear.
By the way. This is a classic. This is getting too good. My goodness. But anyways, that all right, let's just pretend like nothing happened.
They
and keep going.
should not have ever even implied it was coming to the Xbox One. I think that was a really big mistake.
We know they were having issues with Xbox One just in general, right?
Yeah,
like with
seriously.
everything. So
yeah, after I hit the back button with my cheek on my phone, which is why you shouldn't normally do this. I can't turn the screen off or else I stop being able to talk to you. Yeah, I was saying like Bonnie Ross saying a few years ago, we will never not have it. And then never actually having it again anyways is just sort of like, oh, it's the type of mistakes that people just rightfully get very mad at. The only thing you can do is say, if you make a promise, or
make a girl promise.
You could say, "Don't make a promise to a girl can't keep." Yeah.
Personally, I don't give a crap. I'll be honest. I'm sorry. Split screen campaign co-op. What percentage?
Yeah,
of people
and I'll say
it?
I don't care either. But it is still a massive self-own to have guaranteed you'd have it forever moving forward, and then in the very next game not having
Whatever,
it.
man. Darkwing Duck. Things change.
Well, and same with the ray tracing. Like I never understood why you're promising things that are just like almost nice to haves, like they're like
kind
cherry
of
on top,
almost in a way. You know?
Yeah, and so they
didn't even say like what type of ray tracing. Would it be reflections?
Right.
Would it be shadows? Would it be ambient occlusion? Like there's so many different types. They never said a thing. It was one line in one live stream, but when you say something, people will hold you to it.
Yep. Like on the topic,
and if you don't deliver, you basically kind of erode trust, right? And that just
you're
kind of adds
saying
up.
you don't have to pay attention to what we say in these anymore because we just don't keep up with it.
I remember when they were talking about split screen a little while back. I don't remember if it was a current dev or a previous dev, but I remember seeing a Twitter thread about someone saying something like, if you knew the data we had regarding just how little people play this game split screen, you'd kind of understand the way we prioritize things. And that's why I kind of look at it. I know a lot of people, especially Halo fans, are kind of stuck in that 10, 15 years ago mentality. The world's kind of changed. You know what I mean? Yes, split screen is still important for certain things. Yes, I know a lot of people were looking forward to playing it with their significant others or their siblings. Probably not siblings.
But you can still do that, right? Like,
well, no, I mean on the same
technology
screen.
today.
On the same screen, I mean.
But
right?
why? So that's the other thing too. You look at it now. I mean, it's by the time this gets out of beta, we'll be into 10G anyways. But no, I'm just kidding. But like you look at the streaming stuff. You just grab a screen and why would you need to go a half screen on a TV? Just get your another monitor.
I know,
another
but they don't
screen,
want solutions.
stream it.
They want pitchforks. So
Well, it's because that's. But the thing is, it never really made sense. If it was going to take the resources, if it was going to be difficult to do, if it was going to be performance issues, that is like one of those things you just. This goes to like what I said earlier. What I like about what the new lead was talking about, Baron, where he's just being honest about, hey, this is our goals. We're not going to get there right away with these things. These are our priorities. These are issues, and he brings them all out. Like, just be upfront with people. I think the gaming base is probably as smart as the enthusiasts, the ones that are yelling at you on Twitter sometimes. They are some of the most knowledgeable as well, right? Like,
if they could have shown it running on an Xbox One and it had the brute force frame rate, that would have been perfect. People would have understood right then and there. Yeah, just kill it.
20 frames. 20 frames per
20?
second.
You kidding? 10. You had like 4 people going in brute force? Oh, God.
I don't remember. I remember it being fun, okay? That's all I'm going to say.
Oh, man. I agree with Mort. Let's ditch the Xbox One support.
But, like,
I mean, as a company, they are doing it pretty much. Like, they don't have, outside of what Pentiment probably comes to everything, because that could run on everything. Grounded had already come out. Like, their next few games coming are only listed for next gen. They've got Forza, Redfall, and Starfield all listed as next gen. I can't imagine Avowed is not next gen. Like, I think they're, from here on out, they are full on current gen only.
Like, the reason why the outrage or whatever feels so, I don't know, use the word fabricated, but it feels so kind of useless to me, is because the way they talked about it, right? Which is, hey, we're reallocating resources towards priorities we consider more important. We already know split screen is a very, very, very small percentage of the people that play it, right? It makes sense to allocate and by the way, we can kind of tell that for whatever reason, this entire team is stretched very thin, right? That's something anyone after today's stream
I don't even think
realize.
it's not that people are. I don't think most people are upset about it. Why they're doing it? It's just the fact that they said they weren't going to.
They
said
matter,
they weren't going
though.
to cancel it.
Like, that's like
Because
holding something.
They drew a line in the sand and then said split screen co-op is coming. And even a few months ago, split screen co-op to be determined for release date.
Which was a warning sign,
was,
clearly. Warning flag.
Yeah.
But no, I mean, like, come on, things change, right? Like, it's not just a reality of game development. That's a reality of life. And I'm not defending 343 here. It's just how things are. Don Matrick made it clear that if you wanted a console to play offline games, 360 was your choice. What happens a year and a half later, right?
Communication's the key. I just think like at the end of the day, it's just how you frame things. It's how you create expectations. That is in the hands.
Yeah, it's an unforced error, and you can understand when people get upset at them saying they're going to do something and they're not going to, even if you understand the reasons why.
For some things, I agree. For other things. Sorry.
The one thing I'll give you the one area I will give you some slack on here, so is that we could say that Staten wasn't here when those things were promised.
Yeah, fair enough.
So
you promised what?
He is very much a hatchet man right now. He is just whatever. I've got a vision. I've got a team I'm building, and we are going to build this thing. And I'm going to, in the very nicest way, just tell you, sorry, it's not happening.
If the numbers, hell no.
And I actually want to jump on that point really quick, Jesse. It goes back to kind of again the earlier stuff that we didn't want to stay on because we had a lot of stuff to cover today. But when you tell me that the split screen is canceled, I look at that as I understand it being an L to the general community. I look at it though as a plus in terms of this management team because they are. Staten seems to me
he is
to
a
be
baby-faced killer.
He's willing to make, I mean, he's making very difficult decisions. They're making, big changes. I've heard there's been other things cut, like in the pipeline. He's basically, and if you go all the way back to the Halo 2 documentary, which you can pull up online, anybody can pull it up on YouTube, and you listen to kind of Staten talking about Halo 2, and it's like, they had all these grandiose plans, this multiplayer mode that never.
I mean, just look at their E3 demo.
Yep.
Yeah.
All these plans.
And he was like, "This isn't fun. We got to cut all this stuff and make this part of the game fun and focus on, Halo being,
And then they
focus on
still
making
put out
stuff-
Halo 2's Legendary, which is not fun.
Yeah, I mean the snipers are still shit, but basically it's still a high watermark for gaming in general. And so he's somebody that I do believe is willing to come in there and make those difficult decisions and not give everybody all those cooks in the kitchen. And this has been something going back to Josh Holmes' post 343 kind of came out with those interviews and said all these cooks in the kitchen, everybody wanted all their stuff in the game, and then we spent so much time trying to figure that out that we had time so nobody really got the scope they were looking for. I think he's the guy to come in and just say nope, no, we're going to stay. We need Halo to be Halo.
Yeah, it's finally
we
having
need it
that
to be a great
lead
Halo
voice.
game.
Right? I feel like they could have used this like half a decade ago, man, or more, a decade ago.
No, it's what they needed years ago.
Yeah.
It's what they needed in 2016, 17, before to not get to where they're at, right? And so that's why as much as I completely I've already had my disappointment before everybody else because I knew this was coming, but why I completely empathize
Mr.
with,
Insider.
No, I'm not an insider. I occasionally, once in a while, I hear.
You are
that's it.
special Nick source, aren't you?
I am not an insider at all. So, but
You're inside your house.
Oh my
yeah,
God.
that's it. I'm inside my house. But the thing, I guess, the point is, as much as there's this sort of disappointment and like, what the hell? How'd you get here? Going back to previous decisions and going, why did you make that decision? I also look forward and I say that everything that Staten has kind of said and done, other than, again, he missed on some of the roadmap stuff, so he's got to own that.
Yeah.
But just hearing Baron talk, the kind of the transparency, the willingness to make difficult decisions, the willingness to make changes. He doesn't sound soft to me, and that is, again, it takes me back to Phil Spencer kind of taking over Xbox.
Yes.
As nice as Phil was to public facing and saying all the right things to the consumer, you have to be a grown up in the room and make those decisions. And
he said really there's no one tougher on the teams than him in their internal reviews on stuff.
Yeah. So he knows what Halo's supposed to be. So again, I'm very hopeful and actually optimistic about where this game can be at the end of 2023. I know it's way, way too long, but hey, we got some people in place. And as we said earlier in the show, there's a lag between leadership, behaviors, and then results. And so
when it's a ship this big, it does not turn instantly. It's turning a fair bit slower than we expected it to turn, mind you. But it is turning, right?
Should we go to the community questions, you guys?
Yeah.
Yes, I have 18% battery on my phone.
Okay.
Okay.
I can read them out. I cannot put them on the screen because I will break something. Maybe I can.
No, it's all right. We can just read
You
them.
can try. I'll pay attention to the screen.
Oh yeah, this is kind of working. Except Jesse's face is down there, because I kind of had to. That breaks the illusion.
All right.
Okay, first question from Jesse Brother. Wait, dang it! What button did I click? Back. Okay. Greetings, Halo faithful. Yeah, kind of true, huh? The latest news from 343 gives me quite mixed feelings. On one hand, we're getting hyped for Forge and Co-op in a couple of months. Woohoo! On the other, Season 2 won't be over until March. Yikes. There is good news, though. This does give Soulblazerz plenty of time to complete his multiplayer review. I should pre-read these questions. Sorry, Soul.
No, it's way better when you don't.
I did recently tell Jess I gotta finally stop teasing you about that, but he told me, don't stop. It's hilarious. So blame Jesse.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right under the bus, low bro. What was the question? I think I missed the question.
Soul's his multiplayer review is still in beta. Keep going.
This is a 343 stream. That's a beta review. I don't think there's a question.
No, I think he just wants to make fun of you.
Okay, all
Okay,
right.
let's keep
Next
going.
question from NrXic.
That's
Hello,
fair.
Spartans. Is it just me, or does it seem like this is the final stretch for 3 for 3 and getting Infinite to be the level where it needs to be a fully functioning live service title? Season 3 sounds like it's going to be a proper 3-month season with proper progression, custom games browser, fixed UI, etc. It truly sounds like March will be when they're caught up in addressing a lot of the back-end issues that prevented them from executing at a level that most would expect from live service titles. I'm calling it right now. They're going to hit the ground running in March. 3-month seasons with a constant stream of content from that point on. Edit. Okay, I just watched the video and they basically said this. I thought my prediction would make me sound like Nostrad. But now I sound like... wait, what was the question? Yes, the answer is yes.
Yeah, we talked
pretty much
about
what
that
we've been saying,
earlier.
except for how funny would it be if they got their 3-month season, it goes great, June ends, and they say, okay, the next season's starting in November. They just go without a
No,
season.
that would not be
God.
funny.
I
Let's not live that right now. We'll cross these bridges.
Okay,
when the
last
time
question.
comes.
These guys are going kind of quick, huh? Mort.
Yeah.
Hello there. I've just finished reading the Rubicon Protocol, and I thought it was a great campaign companion, so to speak. It would have made a good prequel DLC to Halo Infinite, in my honest opinion. So a few questions on that note. Number 1. Do you think it would be a good idea to widen or perhaps separate the Halo franchise in gaming a bit? Particularly the single-player / co-op games front. Making Halo Infinite free-to-play multiplayer is own thing, more so than today. How would you go about doing that if you were in charge at Xbox? For example, a 10-hour campaign every 6 years is not really using the IP very well.
Great.
I think it
Yeah.
already is separated. The part that's not right now is co-op because it's tied to networking, which is now going to be taken up by a focus on fixing the servers for PvP. I do think they're already hard at work on the next expansion. I think the cadence on it will be faster with the team they've built. There have been people talking about like writing scripts and being so into it, and they're writing and the stuff they're doing that they kind of get annoyed when they have to clock out because they're having so much fun. There's going to be a lag on getting more campaign content because they've just rebuilt the team essentially. Joe taking over, writing scripts, getting into it. Like it'll probably be a while before we see the endless.
They kind
And
of
if we
hinted
get
that too, huh? In this thing too, where they kind of said like all hands on deck are on this. That kind of implied to me that yeah, I guess campaign content's probably gonna get delayed more too.
To
yeah, like and the
2025.
fully
Whoa.
campaign side of it will probably be keep working on campaign, but anything that's tied to like networking and art or other stuff might be pulled from.
This kind of ties in with Mariano's question in the chat. When do you guys think we'll see a campaign deal? After this video. I know we've talked about it before, but after this video.
2024.
Do you think I think it's going to be even later than 2024. I think it's going to be.
I think late 2024 you could get something smaller. I think a full chief story maybe, but so the plan of having and Joe Staten has talked about it, so I think it's still the plan of having your Spartan become a part of this story, which I think means your Spartan's getting ready to go to Zeta Halo. Making content for that will be a lot faster than making content for another Chief story in a different part of the ring or something. Like they can repurpose stuff they've had, do the cutscene work, do this, do that, but it's not a full Chief story, so it doesn't take as long to make. So if they focus on something like that before going to the Endless and Chief again, then I think that could be a 2024. If it is a Chief story, I wouldn't be surprised if it takes even longer.
Yeah, I would even think at this point to answer the first part of Mort's question, I do look at the single player co-op separation. I feel like that's happened. I feel like this multiplayer, especially with Forge and everything, I don't expect them to relaunch a new multiplayer, new sandbox, because this is going to continue to evolve. It almost doesn't make sense, right? Like you have this out now, and the positive about that going forward is it does allow them to take more chances with the campaign, maybe separate the sandbox a little bit if you want to.
And the campaigns are also DLCs you download, so it's not like you have to worry about it making the footprint of the game too big install wise. Yes.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
the actual base install is the PvP,
yeah,
which you can pull from for textures and all that type of stuff. So.
Yep, and you can do we talked about the AI earlier, and even in there was there's information out there that initially there was some more RPG heavy, it was a little bit more RPG than it turned out to be in the campaign. And so I think they'll be able to start experimenting with different types of, campaign, game design, now that it's no longer, having to match it, because we were always used to the Halo sandbox and the campaign and multiplayer kind of mirroring each other to some extent, the balancing and everything. You don't have to worry about that anymore. If you want to do a Halo Metroidvania, like you find stuff and now you can travel different parts of the map. You could do that. So that, yeah, there's a lot. It'll be interesting to see what happens. I'm not holding my breath though that we're going to get this campaign soon. My guess though, this is just a guess, is that they probably don't even fully know yet. My guess is they're going to probably try to start, now that you have all these new leaders, everything that was on the table before, I would just not assume it's all going to be there. They probably, some of the plans might change, some of them might stay.
Well,
they
that
might
was
say,
one of the things they talked about at first with Joe, was he came on and he made cuts and focuses, and like even the book, the Rubicon Protocol, he asked about, that book was delayed even longer than the game was, because it's pretty clear the story changed so much that it had to be adjusted for that, essentially.
Yeah.
So, and by the way, it's good that Mort read it. That makes two of us in the Xbox era community that have read the book.
We will get to it. Give me a date, and I will get to it.
we'll have to do the spoiler cast.
But
well, hey guys, like we're gonna have some time between.
Yeah, right now in March.
Yeah, we've got 2 months where there might not be much of a point of having a Halo show.
So we might have to do a book spoiler cast, or in that time.
Honestly, I'm kind of more optimistic than you guys. I'll be honest. There have been changes at the team, but from what
we call it naive.
Yes, you can call it that too. But like the changes we've seen
Here's
have been, for the most part, not all of them, multiplayer live service that we've seen. Right, there are changes to campaign people too, but we know that Halo Infinite's campaign didn't take 5 full years of game development time or 6 full years of game development time to make.
No,
it was big.
Most of it
was large. I feel like my personal guess is late 2023, early 2024 is my personal thing, because I feel that's 3 years after release. The campaign team never stopped working, at least from what we've seen. The multiplayer teams have had issues. The live service team has clearly had problems with it. But what reason do we have to believe that the campaign team, the team making the maps, the enemy encounters, basically have almost nothing to do with multiplayer other than new abilities and whatnot? Why would they be delayed another 2 years?
So I think you're talking about the designers, but I do think there's overlap. There is overlap, right, between the developers and so like there is, if
not the
they are all
team, though. Well, maybe.
I do think the issues they're having resource wise with the multiplayer is going to impact the campaign. I would also say though, if you start getting to the point where you're now getting to 2.5, 3 years, Halo Infinite has, we played Elden Ring earlier this year, and I started thinking, when I was playing Elden Ring, I started thinking, man, like, what if you start to take some of this energy into Halo, where it's fun to traverse and you just make a bigger open world? For
those who want more on that, we had an entire podcast on that. Just look for when Elden Ring releases, and then one of the 2 podcasts after that was all about that.
There's so much opportunity, and I do think, whether I tend to like smaller games than bigger open world games. Yeah. But I'm not the general consumer. General consumer likes open world and single player games these days. They want bigger games. Yeah. And so I do think that if you are trying to make Halo appeal to a wider base, you probably need to go bigger. You probably
even
need
bigger
to have
than
some
the Infinite campaign, you think?
Yeah, I do think. I think you probably need to have some RPG. I mean, again, and I think it would work in Halo. I think some aspects of progressing your character. I think there's a lot of opportunity. I would be curious to see what a Joe Staten studio led take on an open world Halo would be. I feel like what we got was really more kind of a taste of it. It was it's wide.
Hopefully it's
world
not too ODST, because that's like one of the worst Halos. But hopefully they come up with some. What?
No, it's
not. Two against one. We agree.
Jesse,
you lose.
We ruined the show. Edit that out, Soul, as you are editing out the rest of the technical difficulties. So,
I guess that's
Jesse
where
doesn't know what he's talking
it would It would depend, right? Because I would say 2023 if I don't have the accent. All right. If they kind of do more of the same, which I would be perfectly okay with because I loved Halo Infinite. Honestly, give me a different location, give me different enemies.
And I think you could get away with more of the same if it is like the multiplayer Spartans and you can reuse areas and maybe add in some new ones. And yeah, if it's Chief, you got to go big. It's probably got to have, more vehicle stuff and more cutscene work and just more pushing the story forward.
End of the day, though, I don't know if they'll make sweeping changes to it. I know Staten's Omni's new, but it is still Halo Infinite, right? It's still that same game. How many sweeping changes do you think they'll make in the series?
I think the biggest sweeping change would be dropping Xbox One support and being able to go far further technically.
Yeah, and don't forget that Halo's always made, in the past, they've always made some tweaks to the game, gameplay, sandbox and things like that. But in addition to that, when we saw the original 2018 trailer, you had all those like animals running around, the wildlife. There's been leaks now where at least one of the creatures that was supposed to be in the originally they had a broader vision where like you're supposed to be able to travel around the ring and things like that. So at least those
they showed a damn submarine at one point.
Yeah,
whatever.
Yeah, you're botting now. There was a lot of things that I believe were that I think we pretty much know were cut. So
yeah, fair enough. I would still stick firm. Q1 2024 at latest is my personal guess.
Yeah. All right. Is that all the questions?
What is that? Is all the questions. Are all the questions.
All right. Well, this was a short show. Not.
Well, it kind of was, to be honest. Like, actually, no.
No, it wasn't. It was a very long show. All right. So I guess it is time for sign off. So I'm going to let you go ahead.
All right. Thank you for watching.
Do that.
We did have a little more viewers today than usual. If you're new to the channel, check it out. By we I mean Jesse and a few others, review games a lot on our channel, and a lot of games that you might not have heard of. We have an Xbox forum, or a forum in general for gaming. You want like a chill place to talk, and if you want to ask us questions on the podcast, we're currently still on the stage where we will answer every single. In fact, we'll even read out posts that are not even questions. So if you want us to read things, post it on the forum before the show will go. I'm not sure if we'll go live again in 2 weeks. I guess it'll depend on if, like, they said the coming weeks will give more information. Do you think they'll give something that soon?
We're going to have a big... Okay, so we do need to preface this. For everybody who's tuning in for the first time, if you don't know, with Xbox Era, John Mechanical, he's on the main podcast every Saturday at 6 Eastern time with Nick and Jesse in the background there. And he was a Forge... what did you call it? A Forge Council. Yeah. He's actually been... He's got more inside knowledge of that than anybody. We can't elaborate right now, right? So I don't know what he's put out there, but when he's allowed to talk about that stuff, when he can no longer be under NDA, we are going to have a Forge blowout show.
Finally.
And really, he's got hands-on with it. He's had hands-on before all the leaks and everything else. So we'll really be able to dive into some of the potential there. So you definitely want to keep a lookout for that. Make sure you're following one of us or Xbox Era, hopefully following all of us, and we'll let you know about that. But that should be coming up. I don't know. Hopefully hopefully in these coming weeks that we'll be able to kind of just pull the lid off of that and really dive into it. Because we're all really, really excited about the potential of Forge.
Other than that, if you really like our content, please like the video, write a comment for any comments or feedbacks you had. I know this stream was a little hectic. I definitely will make sure to have like a full backup working in case another lightning storm happens. We should do like a fun to get Jesse out of Florida or that area at least. Technically, if you still play Halo Infinite, for the few dozen that do, there's, I believe, an event next week. I have no idea what it entails, but it sounds kind of interesting, a little more social, called the Yappening. Other than that, if you really like what we do, we have a Patreon. Link is in the description. And that's it. Thank you for watching.
All right, good. Yeah, thanks for watching. Thanks for hanging out with us in the chat. And thanks for holding on through all of our technical difficulties. I
Yes.
really appreciate you guys, hanging in there while we put the show on hold for, for people that were hit by lightning. But thanks again, guys. We look forward to seeing you again really soon.
I gotta click end.
Did you say?